sharing a little bit about Hinduism, a little bit of my culture that I get to bring to you. It is about Hinduism, so if I can have the next slide. Okay, so it is an abundant religion. It is 5,000 years old, and it has mysteries that even if you grow up in India, we can only barely touch the surface. My charge is a little challenging, but what I want to do is instead come to you from my heart, share whatever Spirit wants me to share with you. And so one thing is for a little bit of knowledge and then a little bit of some of my own experience, and I'm keeping an eye on time because it is an abundant religion. So it is 5,000 years old, at least as far as we know. It's more than that. There are no, it's considered a religion that doesn't have a beginning. So it was like a direct download from God to these ancient sages who wrote these powerful books. There are many epics in India, and they are all written in Sanskrit, which is a dying, almost a dead language, but it's been preserved through the oral tradition, and it's been carried forward. So there are people who are trained through those schools of thought, trained within the families, Brahmins. They are specifically trained down the lineage, and so they are the ones who do the translation for us. And it's if you ever go to India, you'll see the sacredness all around you. It's just part of us. Everything we do has God in the center of everything. Waking up to going to sleep, you buy a new car, you pray. You buy a new house, you pray. You send your brother off to war, you pray, and so on and so forth. We are 7 slides ahead. Can we go back a little bit?
You had them in different order, remember?
Well, okay. All right, so I'm just gonna go with whatever's on the screen. Hindus pray to different aspects of the divine, and we know at CSL that God shows up in different ways with different attributes. So one thing I was surprised to discover this year is that it's Ernest Holmes who accessed the ancient mysticism of the Hindu tradition and brought some of those things to science of mind. That's why we can hear those lessons through our teachings, that God has different attributes, and the Hindu culture worships those. So in some gods we'll see strength, and in some gods there will be power. Some gods is wisdom or abundance through money. So all of those different aspects are prayed to in different human forms, either through animals like Ganesha or cows, which is considered a sacred animal, or through Mother Earth, or human beings in human forms. So Hinduism is linked, is revered through what we see in the images that we can relate to, recognizing that actually God is bigger than all of that. But it helps us connect to God in some form that gives us that visual. And so Hindus, we use images to worship, statues, images, and so on. Yes, on our daily life, we do get carried away in just thinking of the images as God, but that's where the lessons, the teachings, the books, they go deeper and tell us that God is much bigger than that. And we can then recognize the divine in everything and everyone. Sounds familiar? Ernest Holmes says that. And so Hinduism sees the divine presence in all existence and the consciousness in everything. So everything is sacred. And there is a name we give to each of those things as a god. Let's go to the next one. And so Hindus believe that the soul is eternal. This energy, this consciousness that started the universe, we call that Brahma, is in every person and every being, and it's the soul that keeps on recycling in different forms, in births and deaths, and there isn't stage nirvana that goes beyond these births and deaths, but it's a cycle that that's eternal, and the soul is born in and reborn. So we do believe in rebirth. And it's all based on the karma. What you do on this earth is going to give you the next birth. In fact, my mom says, and this is what the scripture says, that becoming human is the sort of 84 million births had to take place through different lower life forms to get us to this point. So being a human being is like we've evolved through 84 million births. Let that soak in. Let us be grateful for that. Like, we are special. We've come to that higher level of consciousness. And wow. Let's go to the next slide. And so, as I mentioned, there are many, many scriptures. Vedas are the ancient ones, and then there are Upanishads, and there are the Gita is what most people recognize. It's the epic of war, Mahabharata, and then it's the stories that Krishna, the lessons that Krishna taught on the battleground. And one common lesson that you may all have heard of is karma. What you do is on this earth in this form is what the law of attraction. Whatever you do, you're going to attract that to you. And so we believe in everything through your actions, karma and dharma, your obligations, your role in life. And so Vedas are, and again, we have the pundits who do the translation for us. There are people who are trained in this legacy, and we find that it's everywhere. The sacredness through chants, through writings, through songs, through the oral traditions of stories, and the biggest one, the most funnest one, is the festivals of India. We have, I don't know, maybe more than 50 festivals. They all represent very deep symbolic things. We just finished Diwali, and we had our New Year, and Diwali is 5 days long, and each of them have very different meanings for the festival. So it's very rich in color, in meaning, in the rituals, and it all brings us in different ways to God, the remembrance of God all day long, all year long. And then the food and the clothes are just secondary, but the message is the main one. And so here we see there are lots and lots of gods. There's one God for each of us, or multiple gods for different things we want. And so that is what I leave you with. I hope if you're interested in any of this, I'm happy to be the resource person for you. And Sikhism that Candace shared is part of that whole tradition of the ancient Indo Hindu traditions of Far East Asia. And that is it. Thank you very much.
I wonder who's next.
Thank you, Amee. That was beautiful. We really do share so much abundance. So, my name's Jen. Hi, everybody. The theme for 2024 is a grand rising. The theme for November is abundance. Okay, topic for today. Life is sweet, let it rise. Ernest Holmes offers the spiritual perspective on abundance, aka opulence. Reverse all beliefs in lack and accept the simple proposition that God is good. This is fundamental to a correct idea of substance and supply and the operation of the law of opulence. God is good. This good is ours now, Let this be permanent and increasing expectancy. Let us expect so much good, more than we even have time to enjoy. Let us feel the good, more than we even have, Let us feel the presence of this good and appreciate its meaning and give thanks for its manifestation. This is the combination of gratitude, expectancy, and joy. An enthusiastic recognition that we are in partnership with the divine and that God and company cannot fail. And Esther Hicks says, the fastest way to bring more wonderful examples of abundance into your personal experience is to take constant notice of the wonderful things that are already here.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that I do while I'm sitting over there is I look up and I see those trees and that sky, and it lasts forever. So let's affirm together, the abundance of life flows in and around me. And now I welcome the abundance of Reverend Kathleen.
Don't you love this theme? That we've broken up the word abundance into abundance. And so what came to mind for me is think about over the holiday. What did we do? Okay. Well, think of over the holiday buns, okay? Warm, tasty buns. Sometimes they're sweet with sweet things on top. And then my mind went to our holiday potlucks. And when we all contribute to that beautiful spread that we have all usually over there and tables and chairs and everywhere, and it's always so awe-inspiring, isn't it, to see all the beautiful food laid out, covering all the food groups, and healthy, delicious things. And it's something that came out of each and every one of us, but it's actually the divine coming through each and every one of us in amazing creativity. So let's breathe that in. And then the dance part. There's the buns. The dance of life, dancing with the divine. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we're actually doing? We're dancing through life. If we're aware that we're dancing with the divine, it makes things very, very different. It's a very different experience than if we just kind of think of, oh, it's just me against the world, that kind of attitude. No, we are here. We are in partnership with the divine. And it's a dance. It's meant to be a dance. It's meant to be a joyful dance. And that's something that we get to choose. And so this means that when we enter into this state of dance, this state of grace, that abundance that's already present flows through us and as us so beautifully and so gracefully. And then what it does when we become that consciousness and awareness of abundance, it flows through us. It flows through us and shows up, and then there's more and more to be grateful for. Because it's in our awareness, where before we may have not noticed it. So the three practices that I'm going to be sharing today, and there'll be a lot more that will unfold throughout the month, is optimism, generosity, and gratitude. Optimism. So think about abundance consciousness. How does that show up in humanity? This thing called optimism. It shows up as not only being optimistic, but when we're optimistic, what happens? We're very resilient. We're able to, and I feel like this, people aren't hearing me. Is that correct? You can hear me? Okay. It just seems very soft to me. Okay. And so then what happens is when we're in that state of optimism, we tend to focus on the good. We tend to notice the good that surrounds us. We tend to be aware of possible solutions. We're open and available to solutions. We're open and available to opportunities that are surrounding us, where before we may not have even noticed. Rather than focusing on what's missing or what's wrong. So when we focus on what's missing or what's wrong, because we're creative, we tend to create more of that. When we focus on everything that's available, we're noticing all of the good, we get more of that. It's a very simple thing, but it's important to me, and that's why I'm sharing with you, to keep going back to that awareness. What are we focusing on? Ask yourself, what do I tend to focus on? Where's my attention? And the beautiful thing is we have freedom of choice and where that attention goes. So as individualizations of spirit, we realize there's plenty to go around. There's more than enough to go around. There's more than enough to go around. And also when we realize that we're actually potters. And the energy of spirit, that we can also call infinite supply, is available for us to mold into various kinds of experiences. Our thoughts create the molds to be filled by the energy of spirit that then is brought into manifestation. The potters, we are these amazing potters turning clay into works of art. So that's optimism. And so when there's an awareness of abundance, that optimism, there's a greater tendency to move into a state called generosity. And I have a beautiful story to share with you. This is a true story. Born in 1908, Osceola McCarty grew up in a time when racial segregation and poverty were rampant. And despite the challenges that she faced, she possessed this extraordinary connection with God, this connection with the abundance of spirit. And so even though she worked as a washerwoman, so you can imagine the meager wages of that, she amazingly, over a period of time, over her years, when she was 87, by the time she was 87, 1995, she had saved $150,000 because she had this vision, and this is the vision that kept pulling her forward. She wanted to contribute to some sort of way, and she believed in the importance of education. She was not able to have that for herself. And she wanted to be able to contribute to future generations to assure that they had an education, no matter what their means. And in particular, she wanted to focus on helping those students who just absolutely could not afford it in any way possible. And so what she did is she went to the University of Mississippi. She shared her idea, decided to contribute the full $150,000 that she had earned throughout her life, and they formed the Osceola McCarty Scholarship Fund. Her story of generosity touched the hearts of many. She gained national attention back in 1995. National attention. More and more people poured money into that scholarship fund, so it grew and grew and grew. She received all kinds of awards in the process. However, what she kept pointing out over and over again is the most important thing to her was the impact that she could make on future generations to assure that students, that young people could break the cycle of poverty and step in to a life of abundance. Take that in. Generosity. Amazing generosity. So this is the message that I got in reading that story, is that no matter what our circumstances are, because remember, circumstances are just in the world of effects, that who we are fountains of divine abundance, each one of us. We have access to ideas in the mind of God, those senses of purpose that we have that come to us, that inspiration is backed by divine support. We are not alone. That, to me, Osceola is such an inspiration. When I read this story, I was like, wow, she supported herself and she saved $150,000 on that kind of an income. And then how many people feel like they don't have enough? It's a mindset. Abundance consciousness is a mindset that we can develop. Optimism, generous giving, and then this last one is gratitude. And I need to stop. I just realized I went over. So gratitude, I'll keep this very short. Gratitude is looking for the good and savoring it and giving thanks for it and realizing where it comes from. It comes from the source of all that is, which is the presence of God. When we do that, more and more good shows up for us to see and witness. And guidance that we can listen to, which is the guidance of spirit, guides us into action to be more and more in that flow of giving and receiving, that flow of abundance of life. So let's just take a moment and give thanks for understanding who we are and whose we are. We are living, moving, and having our being in the abundance of the universe. And we